I want to talk more about research versus production when it comes to data science and ML, and in particular, the structure of what your project would look like in each environment, a research environment and a production environment. And the reason why is that a lot of the data science marketing, a lot of the tooling, a lot of the discussion tends to be focused on the end-to-end workflows in the research domain without always being explicit that that's what we're doing. What I mean is we'll be talking about techniques for loading data, cleaning data, visualizing data, building models, and serving models. This is in no way to minimize the complexity here, right? This is the cool stuff. This is the stuff where you're a smart person with creativity and business acumen, and these tools are lowering the barrier to entry for complex computational and quantitative techniques. It's very exciting, and this is very difficult. It's very difficult to build a really interesting model that drives business value. Now, nevertheless, when it's time to get this into production, and so I'm assuming you've done that hard work, and you have your notebook, your IDE, or your favorite tool, your software engineering, your IT team is going to expect something different in order to put software, which at the end of the day is a core part of your ML project, into production. Here's a basic structure. We use it continual, but you'll see variations of this all over the place, and they certainly get more complex, but you'll always see at least these components. One third-party resource I love is the Practical ML Ops book by Noah Gift, but he has a similar structure. Basically, what's going on here? Think of all of this code from loading data, exploration, model training, model serving. We're going to encapsulate, or we're going to make all of this executable via a single file, some sort of run.py script for Python users like us. So this means when I pull down this project, I'm going to run Python run.py, and it's going to load my data, do my feature engineering, train my models, do my model serving. Everything will get executed from this one script. I'm not going to shift enter through IPYNB17. I'm going to run one script. Similarly, every time we write code to do something like this, we're going to write code to test the thing that we're doing. These go hand in hand. This is mandatory. So we have a run script, and we have some sort of script or test suite that's going to be testing all of the code that we write. We have code that does stuff and code that tests the things. Beyond that, you'll often see, or it is core that you have a way of managing all of your dependencies in your environment. So in the Python landscape, it'll look something like this. You'll have some sort of a virtual environment, could be virtual env conda. You'll have a way of managing external and internal dependencies, like a requirements txt or a setup.py file. And then we typically have a build script of some sort. We tend to go with bash, but it could be anything here. The idea being this is going to do something like, at a minimum, create my virtual environment, activate it, and start installing all of my dependencies, maybe run my tests, maybe lint my code, maybe format my code, all sorts of things. Why do we have all this other stuff when this is the hard work? This is where all the modeling, all the really cool data science is. The reason being, our code is going to live in a version control system, and this is where we're going to manage everything as an organization. And so when we go through a software development workflow, it'll be something like a Jira ticket gets assigned. Gus, go build a new model, make sure it's better. I'll create a new feature branch. When I check my code in, if you see at the bottom, I'll push to that feature branch. This will kick off a CI job. That CI job is going to say, look, my purpose is to build your code, run some tests. I'm going to be looking for stuff like a build script. I'm going to be looking for things like tests to run. If you don't have a formal structure, if you're not following a standard structure that does all that stuff, every time we try to make a change, every time we try to add a new feature, every time we make an update, we're going to be having to figure this out on the fly. This will make our iteration cycles very, very slow. So as part of the, from the lab environment, again, we're in the garage, we're trying to build something cool. You have your lab notebook, you're furiously taking notes as you're experimenting. That's amazing, very difficult. But when we move over into the factory setting, now we're thinking like factory automation. We're going to go down the design, we're going to go through the assembly line. And these types of things need to show up in some format. So if you're working in this environment, you're thinking, I've gotten to the end of my process, I'm done, let me deploy this thing. Just think about this, keep this structure in mind as the next step. As this is how I'm gonna move from, research environment into production. I need to start thinking tests, build automation, version control, separation of environments.